This is Caroline from Caroline's Adventure. We all face challenges in our lives. How do some people take those challenges and turn them into powerful results? Join me as we dig into a story on resilience, hope, and joy, and uncover lessons we can each use in our own lives. But before we start, please take a moment to show that 5-star rating button some love, and follow while you're there to be updated every time I release a new episode. Now, before we begin, a word of caution. On this podcast, we regularly discuss topics like sexual assault, suicide, and addiction, which may be disturbing to some. Please take care as you listen. And if you need support in the United States, reach out to the crisis text line at 741-741. So everybody, this is my friend, Gabe Redic. And how long have we known each other? Like what, 10, 12 years maybe?
I was going to say between 7 and 11.
Okay,
Yeah.
so somewhere in there. So we've known each other a long time. I'm going to say that we have safely known each other probably at least a decade. And one of the cool things with Gabe is that he has in that time experienced some severe hardships. You were hospitalized with COVID, kidney failure. You've had some real setbacks. But the cool thing that I know with you is that you are always focused on that path up. And so even when you have really, really just staggeringly bad news, you look at it and you're always like, okay, you know what? I'm going for my master's. I'm doing this next step forward. You're always pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and moving up. And I'd love to know more about that. Like, how did you develop that tenacity and that focus on going forward? And how long have you had it?
I don't know where it came from. I just know it's been there for a while. I don't know if it was the military, my parents, or a combination of both. I just I have I have to find something to look forward to, or my grandmother and my grandfather have 700 million sayings. They used to always tell me it was all these little bitty antidotes or just run of the mill. My grandmother was native and my grandfather was a character. I'll say it that way. So there was there's been things that have been taught to me throughout my young life, all the way into my adult life. And then when you have kids, you have to reintroduce motivation into them. Every time I've felt like quitting, there's been a text message or a phone call or something that was like, you can't. There's too many things that you're not done with yet. And so it got to the point where I didn't need the phone call or the text message or that added push. It just became second nature. It's just like breathing. I just got blessed. Yeah. And every time I get blessed, I try to enjoy that moment, but yet look forward to the next. So, yeah.
The thing I find with blessings is that you have to be prepared to see them. And what I mean by that is that you have to be in a place where you're willing to accept that that's what that is. Because it's like if I say, okay, look around you and tell me how many blue things do you see around you?
3.
3. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I want you to look around you. Don't see anything blue.
Okay.
Can you still see the blue things?
Yeah, I still see them. I mean, I'm not supposed to, but
because you're focused on seeing the blue. And no matter what you try not to see blue, you're going to see blue. Now, guess what? There's brown things around you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Around you, how many brown things do you see?
Multiple.
Yes. But when we were focused on the blue, you didn't see the brown. You were focused on the blue. And even when I said, don't look at blue, you still saw blue because your emphasis was on the blue. But once we said, okay, well, now we're going to shift to brown, you realize that there was all this other brown there. And it's the same thing with blessings, where when you're choosing not to see blessings, they don't occur. But when you're in a mindset where you're like, you know what, I am blessed, I am fortunate, I am lucky, and I have something else to give this world, you're going to see signs, because those signs are there to be seen, and they would have been there regardless. But because the lens that you are using to see them enables you to see them.
No, there's nothing that you said that I could disagree with. Um, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I would even say, for myself, I'll speak only about for myself. When I chose to mire in discomfort, pain, anguish, um, it became more prevalent.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, you know, it didn't matter that I was breathing. It was the fact that my back hurt. So that was all I cared about.
Yep.
Or I'm in a cast because I broke my foot,
Yeah.
you know. So you have to, a lot of people, me, I had to learn to accept the fact that, there's a glass half empty, there's a glass half full, and then there's a glass just broke.
Yes.
Whether it's empty or half full, there's a glass there.
Yeah.
There's broken glass on the floor. That could be you.
Yeah.
So,
And the glass is always going to be half empty, half full, or broken,
yeah,
depending on how you look at it.
yeah,
And, the thing that I am learning in doing these interviews is that it is always a conscious choice. I talked with a man who came through the foster care system and was sexually abused and physically abused and told he was nothing his entire childhood. And he now runs a nonprofit and is an inspirational speaker. I've talked with people who've come through such amazing hardships. And the thing that enables them to take it to that next level is what you just said, the ability to look at the glass and be like, you know what? It doesn't matter what amount of liquid is in there or whether it's whole or not. I'm going to see it as half full, and I'm going to see it as a sign that I am blessed and that I'm fortunate enough for there to be liquid in my world that I can drink and that will hydrate me, because there are people out there that would love to have water. So
yes,
I am
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
That's huge.
yeah. No, yeah, it's a mindset.
Yes.
It's absolutely a mindset.
So here's a question. Because the thing that I am learning, and I kind of had this sense before I started this process, but so you could call this confirmation bias. I don't know. But what I'm finding is that, I'm talking with some super successful people. I mean, you came through the military, you are very high up now in the financial sector. Like, you have come so incredibly far in life and done so much. And what I find is that it seems that everyone that I talk with that is really successful has come from so many struggles in life. And it isn't that they've had this, like, beautiful, easy path to it, and like that life has just, doors have opened to them and life has miraculously just bequeathed on them all of this amazing wonderfulness, and they're riding around on unicorns and rainbows and start like what I
Yeah,
found in these interviews is that it is a case of um tenacity. My last interview put it perfectly. She said it is perseverance, persistence, and patience. And I love that, because the patience piece is where I often forget, but it's all about that sticking with it through the tough times when it's easy, when it would be so easy just to be like, you know what, no, I'm done. This is too hard. I'm going to step away from it all. It's just not worth it anymore. But having that persistence and that perseverance to see it through regardless, because in your heart that you're blessed and you're made for something better. Do you agree with that? Do you? What are your thoughts on that?
I I absolutely agree with it. And there's those are three pretty good ones. Patience, yeah, patience, perseverance, and what was the other one?
Persistence.
Posturing, persistence. I was gonna say posturing.
Ah.
But passion, gotta have passion too.
Passion's a good one too.
Yeah. Because in every career field I've ever whether I dove in completely or I just put my toe in it. Um, the one thing about it was finding something in the job that made the job more than just a job.
Ah, I love that. Yes. And you're right, the passion piece is so key because without that passion, it's real hard to persevere and have, the persistence if you don't have the passion. Because if you're not like intimately at a gut level connected with it in some way, you're going to walk away when it gets hard.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, there is, it doesn't matter. I mean, I
Yeah.
culinary, when I was in culinary, I used to tell my guys cook love.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a guy that says I don't love anything. And I said, then cook with hate. And he laughed. And I said, do you hate anything? He says, I hate a lot of stuff. I said, then cook with it. I said, use it. He said, why? I said, love and hate is the same emotion. It's just how do you react to it?
Yeah.
I said, do you hate your job? He says, I hate it. I said, then I said, show him how good you could be at it if you actually loved it,
That's
you know.
awesome. That's all.
And
And it's true because like we've all eaten something that someone who cooks with love makes, and it is insane
hmm,
how much of a difference that makes. Like, you can also, my grandmother cooked with nothing but apathy. And oh, it was bad. Well, we had, my sister, my mother, and I all got the flu one year. And my grandmother made us vegetable soup and brings it and delivers it, leaves it at the door. She didn't come in. And that stuff was horrible. Like when I say it was horrible, like as sick as we were like, absolutely not. And so we had this lab and Ebony would eat anything. And when I say anything, like anything. So we tried to feed to Ebony. Ebony wouldn't touch it. And we were
you
like,
tried to feed it to the dog. Oh
trying to feed the
my
dog.
God.
We're like, we feel bad. So we put it out in the woods. We put the pot out in the woods because we're like, okay, well, there's got to be some wild creature that's like, you know what? It's the middle of winter. Vegetable, that stuff sat there for months. It didn't rot. It didn't mildew. It didn't mold. It sat there. And
Was did she use the McDonald's recipe?
I,
You can't
I
say
don't
that.
know what she did to it, but
Mm.
like every single thing that woman cooked was made with apathy. And you could taste it. Like it was, you didn't eat her cooking. And so you are so right. When someone cooks with love or with passion, when they cook with passion, you taste it. And when they don't, then no one wants to taste it.
Oh, you tasted once, but never twice.
No.
Yeah.
I love that though, because you're right. The passion piece is huge. So here's a question. When you're working on something and the passion isn't there, what do you do?
Woo. Push through, persevere, push through, persevere, and try not to see it as punishment.
Yeah.
Um, my alliteration is pretty good today.
Yeah, you are.
But
You're
yeah, um, yeah, we're peeing a lot. Push through, you
I mean,
persevere.
I drink these like crazy. So I mean,
Oh no, I have mine, but it's just in the corner just in case. Yeah. But yeah, no, you have to I have I mean I right now I'm doing audits and because we don't have a budget, um we're we're we are shaking. I mean, metaphorically and literally shaking the government. We're shaking every account trying to see what falls out. And um I just did a personal audit for someone because they asked me to check it. And so long story short, I found money for them. And I told them don't spend it all immediately because the government will re-audit you because they don't like being wrong.
yeah.
But that took 3.5 months.
Okay, that sounds like another P word, which is painful. That sounds painful.
Um, yeah, they are very painstakingly slow. Yeah,
Because it's
but
profit.
I am persistent
Oh,
and always professional.
see, professional is perfunctory. I mean, really, it's perchance if you happen to persist in the P words, then I could profess to I don't know. I've got it. I've got it. If I had just a little bit more time, I would get it, but
Okay.
it's there. So have you always had this like focus on looking for the higher meaning and looking for the passion, or is it something that you had to develop over time?
Oh, it was absolutely developed.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know how deep you want to go with this, but
bring it.
uh-oh.
We,
Um, as a young male, there was very few things in life that I was passionate about. Played sports, pretty decent at most of them. Not the ones, but I didn't have the drive or determination, or um, I didn't I didn't want to commit the way my parents wanted me to commit.
Mm,
Um, because I saw it as an escape from reality.
mm,
And I understood that as long as I was doing certain things and I did them well, it allowed me to get away with other things. Um, those things were uh, they were not illegal, but they were very promiscuous in nature.
okay.
I'll say that. Um, so uh, being a young male, as I said, you men do things for three reasons. Because it'll make you popular, it can get you paid, or it can get you
Put it out there, Gabe.
uh,
It can get
something
you
that you use prophylactics to with.
it'll get you laid.
Yes. Um, so I I until I understood what I was doing, I was only doing it for two of the three reasons. I didn't care about popularity. I wanted money and I wanted a girlfriend, or what having a girlfriend includes.
You want to get
Um, yes, I mean, why lie? And then, and amazingly enough, I this this might this might be horrible. Um, I saw the Cosby Show.
huh,
Um, now we know it's 2024. We know what happened.
yeah.
But the message was there's a different outlet, there's a different avenue, there's a different um, potential that one could have if education became a priority.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was a I was probably a B student in school. I
Mhm,
did just enough to get by. I didn't want people to know I was smart, but I had to be smart enough to stay eligible
mhm,
to play sports.
mhm.
Because if you didn't play sports, you couldn't get girls, and if you couldn't get girls, you were riding the bus with 60 people, so um, or more. But seeing a successful when people say images matter, presence matter,
Yeah.
um, whether it's now with the Marvels with the three superheroes ladies, or the Black Panther, or for myself the Cosby Show, seeing something like that was powerful, because it started to make me think like, wow, there's more than world than Texas. Because when you're from Texas, it's there's three things: it's God, football, and country. Now, depending on where you live at, it's football, God, and country, or sometimes it's God, country, then football. But it's football, God, and country. There's three. That's it. If you're in Texas, that's all you live, you eat, you breathe, you sleep, you die. Football, God, and country. Now you can mix that up however you want to, but if that isn't in your top three, you got problems. So um, different avenues, different opportunities, different things can be seen and realized. Just that TV show just was like, wow. I was like,
I could be a
there's
doctor.
black doctors.
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna say something, and I'm this is me being sarcastic, cynical, and yet a little bit sadly serious.
why we're friends.
I we had to write a paper in school, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I told my teacher I either wanted to be, um, I either wanted to be the first successful surgeon that separates Siamese twins, which
Wow.
ended up being Dr. Ben Carson, because I was trying to find something that Black people hadn't done yet,
Yeah.
or a serial killer. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "I just want to be the first Black something." And she looked at me and said, "I'm going to call your mom." And I was like, "Please don't call my mother. If she has to take off from work, I'm going to die. Like, please." And she said, "I'm going to call your father." And I said, "Yes, but please don't call my mother. Because my dad, I can have a conversation with him." No, no. Mom didn't play with education. And so um, it's probably the biggest reason I didn't go to college directly out of school, because I was so burned out on it and um,
Interesting.
so tired of being held to a standard that I didn't know how to achieve.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a B student. Well, you could be an A student. Your brother's an A student. No, you can't beat me up.
Yeah. And it wasn't your passion. It wasn't your, yeah, it wasn't your motivation.
No, I just wanted to play football, chase girls, and get a Whataburger on the weekend. Um, and then uh, Jordans came out, and I wanted a pair of Jordans and chase girls and get a Whataburger on the weekend. Yeah, yeah.
So
I
that's
was
four things that guys want. Because you said it was three, but Jordans now are four.
No, Jordans fall under money. You got to get paid to get Jordans, and if you don't get paid, you can't get a date to get a girl. So it money is the root of all evil, but that tree has to grow, or you can't get two of those three things.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
Gotcha. Interesting.
yeah.
So what changed then? Because as I mentioned earlier, you've got your master's now. Like, you are always in school for something. It seems like every time, you and I talk, you're like, okay, I'm going back for school for this or that or that. So like, what changed?
22 years in the military, people don't believe it. It flies by. It's it's a burp and sneeze and a fart and a cough, and it's 20 years. It's I mean, it's not to be vulgar. It's just you don't realize how fast
Yeah.
20 years is. And especially when you're always moving every 3 years. Every 3 years you're changing locations, you're changing scenery, you're changing uh
Yeah,
it's
that makes sense because you're right. When you're moving, you're constantly learning something new. You're
mhm,
learning a place, you're getting settled, and then you pick up again, and it makes sense that it would go really quickly because you're
mhm.
constantly, as the old saying goes, moss doesn't collect on a rolling rock.
Nope.
And
You're somewhere 3 years. The first year you're learning. The first year is all you um I I used to always tell my guys, your first year here, you're a sponge. I'm going to I'm going to fill you up with as much liquid as I can until it starts oozing out of you. And they would look at me and they would say, whatever the kids say now, the pauses and all that stuff. And I'm like, huh? Because I'm old. I don't know what that stuff is. But I'm like, okay, pause, whatever that
you
means.
know,
Yeah, but I'm gonna my job is to fill you up with as much as possible. And if you can't take it, we'll figure out how to get it back in you. And they would be like, yo, you gotta stop. And I'm like, stop what? And then And then I was like, oh man, that's kind of bad. I should probably work on that. Yeah. Um, so I would literally like find one or two people, and I went from saying sponges to like computers, and I would tell them I'm gonna download everything I can into you. And I was like, that sounds less
Technology's
threatening or sexual. They were like, yeah, okay. I was like, so you're my USB, and I'm gonna download everything I can into you. And your job is in 10 years from now, find someone to download all of the stuff that I taught you and the stuff that you learned and the stuff that you improved on into the next person. Um, and so that first year you're just learning. The second year you're not a journeyman anymore. You're becoming the not quite the SME, the subject matter expert, but you're becoming the guy that can tweak and learn and move stuff, and you don't know where to go. You get it from the person that knows, and then you can do all that stuff. And then the third year, you're the SME, you're the subject matter expert, and you're like the guy they come to get everything done and all this other stuff. And then the fourth year, you're gone, and it starts all over again.
Wow.
And so people are like, how do you? And if you can't retain the information, which no one retains 100% of everything.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was my third year, I was looking to find somebody to data dump all of the stuff that I learned into. And each person I found at different places, I found one or two that were receptive, and I found many that didn't want anything to do with it. And I was like, I'm not going to waste my energy trying to force something on you.
Yeah.
And I get to look back and see those guys now, and they're climbing in their careers, and they'll text me, hey man, I just got promoted, you know, and I'm just like you. I was hard, but I'm fair. And every once in a while I'll make a bad joke, and I make sure to see who laughs, and I'm like, stop being a kiss ass because that was a bad joke. Stuff like that. Cause make like a tree and leave. That's not funny.
It's not.
Why are you laughing?
You're
Stop
five.
brown nosing.
If you're five, then that's great. That's
Yeah, but
great humor. But
no,
no, you're right.
it's not funny. I'm not gonna make you number one because you laughed at my jokes. No, I'm gonna make you number one because you perform. Yeah. So, yeah, I you go to Bremerton, I go to Virginia, I go to Washington State, I go to San Diego, I go to New Orleans, and I
Mm.
spent 8 years in Dubai, Bahrain. 23 years gone.
Wow.
22 years is over. And it's like, and then people say that the first question they asked me when I was in high school, it comes back. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh no, I joined the military. Yeah, it's over. Now what? So I went back to school. And I got my master's. Well, I got my bachelor's in, I got my BS. Is it BS? Yeah, got my bachelor's of science in business. Yeah, I got a BS in business and a BS in math. And then I got a MBA with a HR, and then I got my second master's in statistical analyst and mathematic principles. Some crap.
Whatever. That's
I,
be
if
proud
I
of.
get a doctorate in it, I'll be a math teacher. I don't want to be a math teacher.
Oh,
I don't want to deal with these kids.
so what do you want to be next?
I used to dream about two things. Dream about being rich and famous. I want neither.
Yeah.
I want peace,
Yes.
and I want freedom of movement.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want to be able to go places, see things, enjoy the little time I have left on this earth with people I love, um, and make good memories.
That's huge. And that's that right there is such a powerful realization, because I don't think life really starts until you stop chasing the other stuff. You know, the wealth, the fame, the whatever. Like when you are living purchase to purchase and like constantly looking for, okay, I came from abject poverty, and lived in a four room. And when I say four room, I mean 4 room shack that was dug into the side of the mountain that didn't have running water or electricity. We ran an extension cord off of the neighbor's power line. And when it rained, we would have to unplug it because you didn't want it to zap. And so like
Did you have a tin roof?
we did have a tin roof.
Me too.
And we did you have an outhouse?
Oh my God. My grandmother's house had an outhouse. My grandmother's on my dad's side. They had an outhouse. They lived in farm country.
Yep.
You didn't go to the bathroom after the lights went out because you
Well,
had no idea what would be out there.
that and in the winter, my sister was little. She was like 3 or 4, and she couldn't quite reach it well. And so she would pee on the seat and it would freeze. And you would go and you would know the moment you sat down,
Slid, or you
oh,
get stuck in it.
would sit on it and it would melt, and you'd be like, and we didn't always have toilet paper. So you're like, when I get up from this, there's nowhere to wash hands. There's nowhere like,
No,
oh,
no.
I hated it. I
Yeah,
hated that.
we had a hose.
Oh,
I remember having a hose. Um, a friend of mine, I have a friend of mine, his name is Nakia. I have a friend of mine, his name is Sean, and another friend of mine, his name is Jason. Now, myself and Nakia, we're black. Sean and Jason are white. We were having a conversation talking about our high school reunion. They're like, "Are you coming to the reunion?" I was like, "Man, I'm not going back to Texas." "Oh, you got to come. You got to come. You got to come." Jason goes, "Hey, man, do you remember we went on this trip? Blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "No, I don't remember that." He was like, he says, "We were picking cotton." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, they gave us these burlap bags and we were texting in the chat. And my
oh,
friend Nakia goes, "Wait a minute, you didn't pick cotton?" He goes, "No, we got to pay." So there was 2 tiers. There was the people who you paid a separate price. If you paid $20 or $30, you didn't have to pick cotton. You were an overseer and you got to manage the people
oh.
picking cotton. So we found out in our group of 4, we're all still friends. Like we send each other the worst stuff possible on the internet. We do. It's, dude, what
Those are
did
good
you
friends.
send me?
Those
It's
are
like,
good friends.
I'm like, it's a German commercial for Skittles. You're gonna love it. Taste the rainbow for real.
Now I'm
Um,
gonna go Google German commercial for skills. Like I need
I
to know.
could I could probably send it to you, but I literally realized we picked cotton, myself, Nakia, and Sean. Jason had enough money, he didn't have to pick cotton. He was our manager. And he got to wear a hat and
Oh,
stand behind us while we picked cotton. He had a picture of it. He
yeah.
posted the picture, yes, and he posted it, and I couldn't screenshot it because it was so grainy. I asked him to send me a copy. He won't send it. He said his mom was embarrassed by it. She won't let him have the picture. But it was one of those things where I was like, "Oh my God." They put us in overalls and we were picking. I
Oh,
swear to you,
oh my.
it is the worst and funniest thing. And it's a memory that I did not have until we started talking about it. And then it hit me. And I was like, "Oh my God, I remember that."
Oh.
And I was like, we were supposed to go to the zoo that day, but they had an animal that attacked somebody like the week prior. So they changed it to this museum and we got to pick cotton. And I went home and told my mom, and I asked my mom about it recently. And she was like, "I remember that." And I was like, "That's true." She was like, "Yeah, they did it until like a few years ago." I was like, "What?" Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm. I don't
Wow.
know how we got here, and I apologize, but yeah, that just, yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm
Yeah.
all about this. That is wild.
Yeah. I'm going to say this might sound weird. I have very little respect for money,
Mhm.
but I respect time more than anything in the world. I can
Yeah,
always make more money. I
yeah,
can make more money. I'll work harder. I'll get another job.
yeah.
Um, no, I'm not going to waste my money frivolously. I'm not going to blow it, and I'm not going to do stupid things. I do have bad habits. I am rebuying. I am rebuying my childhood sneaker collection that I couldn't afford when I was a child, and I gotten to the point of no return, and now I don't know what to do with these shoes. Maybe they'll be great hand-me-downs, but uh, time is running out. The hourglass, I don't know how much time I have left in it or how much sand I have in it, but I need to go home and hug some people at least one more time. So I will, I will do that.
Wow.
Me too.
Yeah. No, that's a good reminder. You know, it is.
I can stomach, I could stomach Texas long enough to go kiss and hug my family.
Yeah.
And I don't hate Texas. I just hate what Texas brings out of me.
Yeah.
So
That's good though. I mean, it's good to, yeah, I don't talk to my mother. And I wonder sometimes I didn't have a relationship with my father. And when he passed, I went to see him on his deathbed, and it was hard. I hadn't had a relationship with him in a long time, and he had a severe head injury when I was, I think, I want to say I was 11, 10 or 11. Um, and so we hadn't had a relationship for a long time. And I take that back. I was 13. I was 13 when he had his accident. Um, but my father was abusive and controlling before the accident, but after the accident, he became more distilled in that piece. And like, in college, he loved to call at about 3 a.m. and tell me about the animals he had killed. And I'm vegan now. It took me a long time to realize that a big part of why I went vegetarian and then vegan was that I had been around when he killed animals. He killed animals very consistently and very frequently. He wouldn't get his dogs spayed, and then they would get pregnant and they would have errant litters of puppies, and he would wait until the puppies opened their eyes and became mobile, and then he would teach them to swim, and did this very consistently. Or he would give them hard head therapy with a hammer. And I've either seen or heard about more animals dying than I ever would wish on anybody. I know what sound rabbits make when they're being skinned, and it's you can't forget that you can't forget that sound. So it played a big role in why I went vegetarian. And then once I realized how detrimental the meat, how cruel the meat or the dairy and egg industries are, I let those go as well, because I didn't want to be tied to anything else suffering. And
powerful.
yeah, but I don't even know what got me down this path.
Oh, you're fine. That's when you saw him,
mm,
when you saw him before he went, did it give you closure?
what it did give me. I had an opportunity to ask him, and it was a question that I'd had for a long time, because he abused me my whole childhood, up until we left when I was 10. And I had a chance to ask him. I said, did you ever want to be my father? And here he is, weak on his deathbed, severe head injury patient. So he didn't have many lucid moments, but he had one of those just fleeting lucid moments. And he thought for a moment. I thought he wasn't going to answer. And then he said, Caroline, I never had a choice. Your mother stopped taking her birth control and didn't tell me. And I didn't get the choice of whether or not to be your father. And in the moment, it was like a gut punch, but it was also, it reaffirmed things that I had known. At a gut level, I always felt unwanted. And
Clarity.
yeah, and it was like, and it was freeing, because my entire life I had always thought, okay, if I am successful enough, they will love me. If I do my makeup well, they will love me. If I'm really, really driven and get the perfect car, they will love me. If I have a luxury house, they will love me. If I am accomplished and I get my degrees, and if I do all of these things, I will be worthy of their love. And it was hard to hear, but it was also amazingly freeing to realize that it was never about me. I
No,
I could have been I could have been anything, and it never would have been enough to earn their love and to be loved the way, unconditionally that a
mhm.
child deserves to be loved.
Right.
And so,
Without parameters,
it-
without, yeah.
yes, wholly and for who I am, and just because I'm their child and I deserve to be loved. And so it was incredibly freeing. It was hard. And I realized when he did pass, I mourned much harder than I had thought I would. We hadn't had a relationship for years. I mourned him when he had his accident because the man that I knew died. And so I didn't really think that there was much there for me to mourn. But when he did die, I mourned hard for about a year. And what I realized was the thing I lost then, even though there was no chance of us ever developing a relationship, and no, from his head injury, he was so far gone that there wasn't a him there to have a relationship with. But I lost the potential of the unrealistic, but still lingering potential that it could be something different.
Possibility.
Yeah. And so when when my mother is getting older and I wonder with her sometimes, I'm like, I told her when I broke off contact that the door was open, but we had to work in therapy to get to a healthier place.
Hmm.
And she told me at the time that that was too much effort and she didn't want to be bothered. And I said, okay, that hurts, but I respect that. But I do wonder, if I get that call at some point, because she's chosen not to meet me halfway, um, I wonder how it will feel. So I applaud you doing the hard thing and going down there and facing that and having the gumption.
It's it's just a different aspect. I see it that way.
I was I was watching a podcast actually earlier today, and they were talking about how the part of our brain that gets exercised anytime you do something you don't want to do grows larger. So when you force yourself to do anything, it can be eat a salad, it can be work out, it can be pick up that phone and do that call that you don't want to be bothered with. Whatever it is, anytime you force yourself to do something that you don't want to do, it grows the part of the brain that leads to longevity. And so they have found that people that live longer have a larger part of that brain. And they're trying to determine whether the correlation is that because people work out regularly, they live longer. Or if it's people that work out regularly force themselves to do it and they don't, and because it's a daily forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do, that part of their brain gets larger and so they live longer. And
Hmm.
they're trying to determine what that correlation is, but there's definitely a distinct tie between that portion of the brain being large and living longer. And
Do
so
those are those people more likely to develop dementia or
uh,
Alzheimer's or Alzheimer's?
they didn't tie into that, but what I have read is that people that find new ways to challenge their brain, so walking backwards or walking with your eyes closed or walking sideways or doing things like that 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 change the connectivity of how you
Hmm.
your physical movement and doing it in some new way does help to increase your brain health and to put off things like Alzheimer's or dementia.
Hmm.
So, so if you force yourself to walk backwards every day, then that's all of it. That's all good.
I do pretty much a lot of forcing myself to do things.
You're like, my whole damn life is forcing myself. Well, thank you for this. This was awesome.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm glad that it wasn't too painful.
Nah, I was actually I've been actually looking forward to it all week. I know last week was bad. But no, thank you for being patient and thank you. This is fun.
I'm glad.
Um, and if you realize you only have about 14 minutes worth of usable footage and we got to do it again, just yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caroline's Adventure podcast. While you're here, subscribe to the show so you're the first to catch new episodes when they're released. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please leave a 5-star rating. For links to social media and more content, visit the description for this episode or go to carolinesadventure.com. That's Caroline with 2 A's, adventure.com. Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Hmm.